And how many of you think the world is in chaos? That's my first question. If you all think the world is in chaos, or you can even raise your digital hand if you want. Yeah, that's a possibility in Zoom. So,
yes, you can raise your Zoom hand or put a yes in the chat box also.
okay. Yeah, so I do see many hands going up, and so definitely everybody agrees with me that we are in chaos at this point, right? So we, not meaning us, but the world around us, the environment around us is in chaos. And we personally might not be feeling the chaos ourselves because maybe we are not in that situation, and we are well protected through geography, through privilege of being in an isolated environment, being privileged of having a technique for ourselves to keep ourselves detached from what's going on around us. It could be the support of our family. It could be the support of a spiritual endeavor that you are having. It could be many of those things. So it could just be the vaccine that you feel that, okay, I'm protected from this chaos right now. Or so whatever the cause may be, the protection that we all see with ourselves, whether it is financial, social, emotional, most of the time are limited, unlimited or conditional. And that conditional acceptance of that situation is removed when the condition is removed. So sometimes the acceptance or the protection or the comfort that we have seems temporary from the situations that we deal with. And that is why spirituality is a very nice tool to give you the assurance of protection from anything evil or harmful in a different state of mind permanently. So this word permanent is something beyond physical things. And we all know that at the time of chaos, you are able to see that very clearly. What are limited things, what are things that are that could change in a second, and what are things that are permanent. And if you start gauging those, what we see is the values that we have are permanent. Anything else that we see around us could change in a blink of an eye in front of us, right? Let's say it's a human support, an emotional support that you're getting from somebody. They could change their mood in a blink of an eye. If you think it's the money, it could change in a blink of an eye, right? It's your investments, it could change in a blink of an eye. Things that are making you feel protected at some point, when the real chaos hits, we do see that those very same protections that we thought are protecting us are changing in front of our eyes in a blink of an eye and make us in a very upheaval state of mind. And then you lose your peace, you lose your happiness, you lose your protection. And so spirituality, in a sense, gives you that assurance of protecting your state of mind above anything else, which is what we need in the time of chaos. So if you see the time of chaos, what do we need? We need two things. We need the power to discern and the power to decide. So these are two things that every human needs when there is chaos hitting, or when it is in front of us. The power to discern, to see the truth from the false, and the power to decide, to know the right from the wrong. So this way, we are able to implement wise decisions that will protect us from being harmed. You all agree? So nothing else matters when you have a situation or a chaos around you. The clarity of thinking, the clarity of your intellect, deciding and discerning things is of utmost importance in terms of chaos. So these are qualities that we can't go and buy in Amazon or Walmart or any places that we know, or within any limits, right? How do you, or you can't learn it in a school. However much they teach all these business administration programs, there are still businesses failing. There are still businesses that go out of bounds. There are still businesses that go bankrupt. Why is that? When the so-called executives are all MBAs, right? But still the businesses go south. So the spiritual power that's needed to maintain relationships, to maintain businesses, to maintain our day-to-day routine is of utmost importance. And this spiritual power that we are talking about is our immunity towards the situations that we deal with day to day. Whether it could be personal, it could be professional, it could be parenting, it could be a lot of things that we face every day. But the whole point of that, the gist of this is the immunity that we get from this can only be possible by spiritual thing, not by physical things. So we have to understand this very much, the difference between physical limitations and the unlimited spiritual potential, capacity. So we have to understand that our spiritual capacity makes the situation go lighter, makes the situation go smaller, makes the situation go invisible if we have the right spiritual power to counter it. And so we have to understand the importance of spirituality. Spirituality is not a religion, so we have to understand that there are two different things between the major difference between spirituality and religion is spirituality is something that awakens your intellect. Spirituality is not a retirement program. It's not only for people who are retired, right? Spirituality is something, it's a maintenance program. It's just like how you brush your teeth, how you take shower, how you clean your house, right? Like you vacuum your house, you mop your floor. It's like you change your oil in the car. So spirituality is a maintenance program, and maintenance is needed at all levels, at all ages, for all people. So everyone needs maintenance, right? So we do have that simple distinction between religion and spirituality. So maybe we may not follow any religion, we could be agnostic, but spirituality is something that is needed even for people who don't believe in that system. And so sometimes we have people come to us and say, oh, I don't believe in this, but I don't believe in this. Like, for example, it's very funny saying that I don't believe in brushing my teeth, right? Yeah, you don't believe in it, but there is a consequence of you not brushing your teeth. And you will find it out in the hard way. If you don't brush your teeth every day, you will see people moving away from you and nobody wants to sit near you or talk to you. So you will find the consequence. Or if you say, I don't want to take shower, and then what's going to happen, right? So sometimes people just dismiss it as a not a necessity in their life. They say, oh, spirituality is not for me. I have time. I have a lot of time. I'm right now enjoying my life. So please come back when I'm 60 years old or 65. And that's why I tell them, this is not a retirement program. This is a need that you need it every day. Just like how you need to change oil in your car, right? You don't say, I don't need to change oil in my car and keep driving it indefinitely, right? Or you don't say, oh, I don't need to fill gas in my car. The car will keep perpetually moving all the time without me putting gas. No, you don't say that. But then we always say that when it comes to spirituality, we say, oh, I don't need spirituality. I don't need this at this point, because we feel that the priority is for different things. But we don't understand that those same things we cannot do without spirituality being an integral part of our life, because that's our immunity, right? And so we always try to reject things that are important, things that are supposed to be prioritized. And what do we say when somebody does that? We just simply say it's ignorance. So ignorance is a quality that makes you reject things that are supposed to be your priority. So people who have this ignorance have this habit of dismissing things without understanding that it's important to them. So first we have to understand the importance of this immunity, this protection, the spiritual immunity that we need in our life. And so understanding that you are spending your morning, your precious Saturday morning with us itself is an indication that you are all interested in knowing this immune thing and how can I get it? How am I able to get this immunity? Is it something that the government provides? Is it something that you go to some hospital or some place and get? It's not like a vaccine that you can inject in your arm, right? It's not a jab that somebody can give you. It's something beyond that. The spiritual immunity is something that will not only protect you from what is currently happening, but also will protect you from what will happen in the future. So it's a thing that we need, the qualities that we need to imbibe, the method that we need to adapt. And unless we do all that, we are not going to be immune to the external influences that are bothering us day in and day out. So keeping all this in mind, we will come to the main purpose of how do I get this immunity. So for me to understand why it is important, first I have to understand what is going on, right? So if I have to know why I have to get the vaccine, I have to first understand what is the virus doing to my body. So we have to first know about the virus that is affecting us, which are why we are bothered or we are creating upheaval when there is a situation in our life. What is it that is bothering us? What is it the prime reason for us to get to that state of mind where we are not able to think, where we are not able to address our emotions in the right way or respond to situations in the right way? We always react. So what is that is stopping us from doing that? What is that virus? So the virus is the vices that are in the form of external influences of lust, anger, greed, ego, and attachment. So these 5 vices are the basis of the external influence. So the virus is the vices, right? And so once I understand the aspects of the virus, then my next question is, what does it do to me? So we are all have experienced what it does to us, the upheaval that you are created in the state of your mind. So basically it's disturbing your peace and happiness. And then you can ask the question, if it is disturbing my peace and happiness, why I should be bothered? Why am I bothered when something is disturbing my peace and happiness? What is it that the main reason that I'm always behind the peace and happiness? What is in peace and happiness that makes me or any human drive towards that quality? What is so attractive about peace and happiness? And so when we understand what is peace and happiness, then we will know why we need it. And the reason why we have a very comfortable feeling about peace and happiness is because that's our basis, that's our operating system. So I cannot deviate or depart from something original about myself. And this original quality of peace and happiness is me. I am that peace, I am that happiness. So whenever I am asked to depart or deviate from that state of mind, I am bothered. Right? So when something is you and somebody is trying to strike the identity of you, which is what you are going to be bothered. Because you say, that is my nature. And they are trying to disturb my nature, or they are trying to change my nature. My nature is to have coffee in the morning, right? And somebody is coming and putting a condition that you cannot have coffee in the morning, then that everything goes out of the window, right? You lose your cool because you're like, that's who I am. I am the one who I like to drink coffee, and you're putting the restriction on the one thing that I like the most, right? And so that is something that is bothering me. So this is something physical, right? Coffee is something physical, but peace and happiness is something integral part of me. And somebody is trying to disturb my peace and my happiness, I will be bothered because that's the integral part of me. That's me. You take that out of me, I am nothing. And so I have to understand what is the system. My system is made of this peace, this happiness, right? And so I have 7 qualities like that, which makes me, that's me, right? I am peace, I am happiness, I am bliss, I am purity, I am knowledgeful, and I am, what is the 7th one? Anybody knows?
Loving.
Huh?
Loving.
Love. Right? I am all this. And so if you are trying to disturb any of these 7 qualities, I will be bothered. So you go and think back of all the external influences. Most of the external influences have disturbed your peace. That's the first thing it attacks. Some of the influences have attacked your peace and happiness. Some of them have attacked your peace, happiness, and love. Some of them have attacked your peace, happiness, love, and purity. Some of them has attacked your peace, happiness, love, and wisdom. So you can categorize your external influences of what integral part of you it was bothering. And then you have to respond according to what it bothered, right? So we have to restore it back to that original state. Until we go back to that original state, we are not ourselves. So that's the virus, right? What is the virus attacking? The virus is attacking the integral part of me, that's me. And that's why I'm so bothered. That's why I lose my state of mind. That's why I lose my cool. That's why I react. Because that is exactly what it is doing. It is shaking my foundation. And so when I understand this basic concept, then I will know how to counter the external influences, how it should not touch my integral part. That's the core of me. And so what is the counter to the external influences? What is the counter to vices? It's the virtues. So the very same integral part of me is also the list of virtues. And I can make it a power by doing it in action, by bringing it in action. So if I have love inside me, if I have peace inside me, if I have happiness inside me, unless I bring it into action, I will not be able to counter the external influences, the vices. Because when I have virtues inside me, it's like me having money in the savings bank, and I have a situation where I need the money. So unless I go to the bank and withdraw the money and issue it in form of a check or a whatever, right? I cannot counter that thing. So I need to use it. What's the point if I have $1 million in my bank and a collection agency is after me for $20? Is that being smart? No, because I could have easily withdrawn the money and paid it. I will say, oh, I have $1 million in my bank, but I refuse to pay this bill of $20. So there's collection agency behind me asking for the $20. But I have never used my money. I'm very rich, but I've never used my money. I'm resisting myself to withdraw $20 from my bank. So what's that? So that's not being smart, right? So for me to counter something, I need to use it. So if I have to counter the vices with virtues, I need to use the virtues. And the question is, am I really using my virtues? Or am I simply having it in me? And that decides whether your situation will go and will it restore your state of mind or not. And for me to use it, I need to know the method how to use it. So the meditation part that the BrahmaKumari teaches for a very long time is exactly how can I use it? I am that. So first, the teachings of the BrahmaKumaris makes us realize that I am this 7 original qualities. I am a soul and I am imperishable. I'm a point of light. I'm an energy that makes this body work. And I'm seated on the center of my forehead. I'm a very tiny point of light. So this is the knowledge that we get from the BrahmaKumaris about the realization of the self. That this is me, this is the integral part of me. These are the qualities, this is my operating system. And then we talk about what are the external influences, the external influences being the 5 vices, the anger, lust, greed, ego, attachment. And then the third part comes where we are taught about the method to use the virtues against the vices, because those are the antonym, right? Vice and virtue. So if I have the virtues, how do I use the virtues? And when I use the virtues become a power to counter the vices, the external influences, so they can neutralize it, right? It's very similar to a vaccine neutralizing the virus. So how does the vaccine neutralize the virus? The vaccine is injected in the body makes the immune system awaken, and the immune system takes care of the virus. So the vaccine has instructed the body how to counter the virus. So there is knowledge embedded in the vaccine that is used by the body to counter the virus. In the same way, the divine introduces us the method of using our own immune system, the virtues, and activating the virtues in ourselves to counter the virus, the external influences that is hitting us. Somebody has to trigger it. Who is triggering it? Who is awakening the soul to counter the external influences? That's the what do you say? The fundamental role of the divine. The fundamental role of the divine is to activate us to work against the virus, which in this case is the vices. And how does the divine trigger our soul to act against the external influences? By realizing the external influences are harmful to us. So till now, we have been in the state of mind, the vices are a natural part of the system. So we have been ignoring the virus. It's like the body ignoring the virus. The virus has entered the body. The body doesn't even realize that something external, something foreign has entered the body, and the body is ignoring it. So the virus is able to multiply more and more and more till there comes a state where the body is like, oh, what happened now? All my functions are going down. And so that is the carelessness that we had.
Out.
Sorry?
I think that was someone accidentally unmuting themselves.
Oh, okay. So basically, if I am able to realize, the first thing that the immune system does is to realize what is affecting it. And so we have to recognize what is the vices and what is the virtue and what is good and what is bad. So we need to have this power of discernment and power to decide, to know the truth from the false and to know the right from the wrong. And if we have not used those two qualities, which is already built in me, then I'm going to suffer the consequence of that attack. And that is what is happening. The vices are influencing the soul in a very tricky way, in many forms that the soul is not able to recognize. And so the soul is allowing the vices to influence the soul. And then that gets manifested itself in our thoughts, words, and actions. And then only when the consequences become extreme do we realize what we have gotten into. And that is why we need this first step of immunity to realize what is affecting us and how we can prevent it. So this is where the divine intervention is there. The divine intervention is simply by giving us this knowledge of what you have to look for. What are the external influences you have to be careful about that will attack you, the system, so that you will lose your peace and happiness. So the divine comes into helping us realize this portion of what we should be protecting ourselves against. And in what forms do they come, these external influences? So some of them have experiences about it, some of them may not have experiences, but mostly we all understand the gross level of things that influence us, that disturbs our peace and happiness. But there are some subtle things that we can leave out or overlook. And that's where the spirituality helps. Because everybody knows the gross things, right? Everybody knows the 10 commandments, everybody knows the gross things, okay? You shall not steal, you shall not kill, you shall not do this, you shall not do that. But what are the subtle things that we do day to day that make us end up in the place where we lose our peace and happiness? That's where we have to focus now, because the gross ones we all know. We are all expert of the gross vices. But the subtle vices are the ones that are really overtaking the system, because the subtle vices are like the virus that you can't see with your physical eyes. They are incognito, they are operating in a stealth mode, right? That you can't see, you can't decipher. And so what happens is you need to understand and know where to look for. So it becomes a game. You are hunting for the incognito things that are influencing you without letting you know that it is influencing you. And so that is where the spirituality starts. The spirituality starts with the gross things, but the soon you realize the gross things, it comes to the subtler things that we are not able to realize every day. And the subtler things are the ones which causes the problem. And the subtler things, when they manifest themselves as external influences in the soul, you get the gross things out again. In the form of anger, in the form of lust, in the form of greed, in the form of ego, in the form of attachment. But the basis is the subtler things that is causing the trouble. So maybe we initially thought we overcome the gross vices, And then when we go deep into the subtler vices have been there as a virus trying to get activated and keep disturbing your peace and happiness then and there. Whenever there is an opportunity, it shows up. And you are not able to understand what happened. I just took care of this. And what happened? It came again. Why it came again? Because it never went away. It's like the virus hitting in your body, right? And it never went away. So whenever there is opportunity for it to show up, it's showing up, right? That's why you take the flu shots every year, because the flu virus is still in your body, hiding somewhere and waiting for the right opportunity, especially when there is a season change, right? It comes. Every year it comes. So the subtler vices that are influencing us is also like the virus. It's kind of waiting for an opportunity to show up. And so we have to, just like the booster shots we take every year, we have to re-aware ourselves. This re-awareness or the relearning of things that we do in a better way. So it is called continuous improvement. So you see all management in spirituality, right? You can get all management words in spirituality. So this is kind of spiritual MBA, where you are talking about continuous improvement, you are talking about looking for things, you are talking about sustainability of the virtues or the vices, you are talking about management of your emotions and feelings. So it's all about discipline, right? And then you call it a spiritual discipline. And then you have protocols that will prevent you from going over the step. And when you are out of your specifications of those limits or protocols, you then sense the external influences influencing you more. So your protection is to stay within those boundaries that are drawn by the spiritual protocols or the spiritual discipline. And discipline is always a good thing, right? We have always been taught discipline is a good thing. Like, for example, we have been taught early to bed, early to rise is a good thing. We have been taught to eat healthy food is a good thing. We have been taught to, groom ourselves is a good thing, right? We have been taught so many things from childhood. And so we have to make it as an integral part of our life. The spiritual discipline has to be an integral part of our life to keep us immune from these external influences so that they don't show up often to make us lose our peace and happiness. Right? Very simple. We are doing it for every other thing except ourselves. We are doing the maintenance for our house. We are doing the maintenance for our car. We are doing the maintenance of our kids. We are doing the maintenance of our body. The only place where we lack that is the maintenance of the self, the soul. And so this is just another maintenance program that we have to add. This is a contract between us and the divine that we have to sign so that we maintain that spiritual discipline. This is our annual maintenance contract that we have to sign up. And this is something that is very, very important and should be at the top of our list than any other maintenance program. Because all other things will fall in place when you obtain or adopt that spiritual discipline. And that's your immunity. And this immunity is gifted to you by the divine. Because no other human souls can awaken us to this realization of what is important. And why the divine? Because divine is the parent of all the souls. So he knows what is best. He's our parent. So he knows what is best. So the divine intervenes because the children are being bothered by the external vices or the virus. So the divine, as a parent, takes the step to inform the children what you have to look for. And that's the whole role of the divine. of taking care of the children. And so when you see it in that relationship with the divine as a parent, then you understand the role of the parent. The role of the parent is just like any other parent, protecting the child from the harm. That's the utmost number one duty of a parent, to protect the child from harm. And that's what the divine also does. That's what the divine cares about. But the method by which the divine does it is by which the divine enforces that discipline in the child is with love. It's not by force. It's by love and by repetition. So we get this instruction day in and day out. Don't do this, do this. Look for this. So there is always a word of caution. And so this divine immunity works very beautifully if I integrate this spiritual discipline into myself. And the whole effort is to, how do I integrate the spiritual discipline into my daily life? Sometimes I could miss this and there, and then that causes trouble. And so I am constantly checking and changing my behavior in order to be within the boundaries of the spiritual discipline. And that's the effort I have to make. Right? For everything, there is a method. Even to brush your teeth, there is a method. The dentist shows you the method, the right way to brush, the right way to maintain your hygiene, right? Dental hygiene. So it's the same way the divine instructs us to maintain our spiritual discipline as an immunity to the external influences that is bothering us and threatening our peace and happiness. And that is where the BrahmaKumaris are doing this for 83 years, providing the tools and methods to integrate the spiritual discipline. So if you're interested and to know more in detail, you could always join the 7-day course that we have, which is a very structured course, which has step-by-step instructions, right? And this is a do-it-yourself project. So this is a DIY, right? Like IKEA. So we provide this set of instructions or a step-by-step procedure to how to integrate the spiritual discipline in your daily life. So you have all the elements of whatever you are seeing outside. So that has been integrated in a very structured and natural way to make it easy for you to maintain yourself without any cost. This is absolutely free. There is no charge for this discipline. You don't need to buy it. It's absolutely free of charge. It's offered to you for free. And that's the best thing about this, that there is no cost involved. There is not any infrastructure involved. You don't need to change your house or remodel your house to do this. It's as simple as a thought away. It's just a thought away to know that I can integrate this as part of my life. It's so easy. It's free, it's easy, and it's just a thought away. All you need to do is think one thought. Okay, I need to do this. I need to integrate the spiritual discipline in my life as my immunity to these external influences that try to take away my peace and happiness. And that's all. If you're able to do that, you will easily sign up for this. And I signed up for this 10 years ago, and I find the benefit. And I still keep correcting myself. Contrary to what Nalisha Ben said, I do have sometimes where things or situations force me to lose my cool, right? I'm still making that effort of checking and seeing what is that is bothering at the deep level, because there is always some subtle things that are causing the trouble, and they are hiding and causing the trouble, right? It's like a rat in the house. So you have to put the bait to take it out, right? And there are different tricks to the bait, right? There are different types of baits. So same way, we have a lot of baits, and we have to make sure the bait works so that you can take the rat out of the system so that the house is not disturbed. Okay, so I'll stop here and see if you have any questions. Been talking for almost 50 minutes, so just want to pause and give the Q&A.
So I see that we have first 2 questions in the chat box, and then we'll open it up to anyone that would like to ask.
Sure.
One is, please give an example of subtle vices. And then the second is, what divine immunity we have when envy, a deadly virus covered as criticism and disrespect, are thrown our way?
So basically, the best way to get rid of any type of virus is to increase your immunity. So here in BrahmaKumaris, the best immunity for you is to connect yourself to the divine. That's your best immunity. Because when you are connected to the divine, the energy of the divine is protecting you from getting into all these vices. It is protecting you from getting the vices into the system. So it acts as the security at the door, right? So think of it like the soul as a place of high importance. And the security at the door is God himself, the divine, protecting you from those external influences from entering that house. And the house is having this very valuable diamond called peace and happiness, right? All these 7 qualities that the soul has are like the diamonds in the house. And the protector is the divine. And so the divine is protecting the house from being robbed. And these subtle vices are this stealth, hi-fi robbers, right? This hi-fi technology robbers who use technology to steal things. But the divine knows how they enter, what they do, what techniques they use. So you are totally covered. So the connection with the divine is very important. If you are not connected to the divine, you lose that ability to find out. Because you don't know what are the methods the robber uses, right? So you have to hire a professional. You have to hire a professional security to make sure that your house is in order and nobody is trying to steal it. So I have this house with all these important valuables. And if I want my house in order and protected, I need to hire a professional. And luckily, the professional is my parent, right? So the divine is my parent. And so there is no charge to the hiring. So I can hire him for free, and he is willing to protect me from all those external influences without me spending a penny. So it's just the relationship that I need to have with the divine, which is protecting me from all these vices. Yes, sister?
I think we have from Nita Ben, you have a comment in the chat box. Did you want to ask your question?
Oh, I was just saying that, you can have situations where you're getting some negative actions, and then you forgive them, but then, and even try to be more peaceful, but then you don't feel like they're making the effort.
Yeah, but that will be handled by what is called karma, so that we don't need to bother about that. Their effort is their karma, right? But how do I protect myself from that?
think what part of that is also is about, you know, not changing our own actions or our thoughts because of an expectation of how somebody else will be.
But also the scope, right? Like, for example, you are trying to protect your house from thieves stealing, right? For me, I have protected my house, but I'm also looking how to change the thief. That's not my job. My job is to protect my house. My job is not to discipline the thief. That's not my job, right? So this is like, so when you are focusing on the other, how will I change the other person not to disturb my peace? It's like trying to reform the thief of not stealing another house. That's not my job. I protected my house, and that there it ends. I cannot go and try to make the thief realize his mistake and say, oh, okay, he's going to become, you know, Gandhi from so.
But if you keep the relationship, then you're in that continuous cycle of having to deal with it, negative actions again and again.
Yes, the just like the nature is dealing with the nature is dealing with all types of external things, right? Like, for example, the weather conditions, the climate, everything. The nature has its own way of protecting itself from those things. But the nature is not trying to manipulate the weather. The weather is doing its job and the nature is doing its job. For example, the winter is coming every year. The trees are shedding its leaves to protect itself from the harsh winter. So it's a cycle where constantly you are seeing how the nature is protecting itself from the element of weather, but doesn't mean that the winter is stopping. Winter is not stopping. So the tree has to shed its leaf, has to gain its leaf back in spring when the climatic conditions are in favor. So that's what we have to do. In protection, there is no point of correcting the others. It is only protecting. It's only defense mechanism, right? So there is no offense mechanism. There is nothing that you are trying to proactively do. It is just that you are protecting yourself every time it's hitting you. You are not influenced.
Thank
you are like the tree. You are like every time there is a winter, you are shedding. You have no leaves in on your branches, so that you are protecting yourself from the winter. And that's all you can do. You can't do anything else.
I see that Hriday Bhai has his hand up.
Hi, Karthik Bhai, thank you very much. I really appreciate, and I have one comment that I was so engrossed in listening to you, so my note-taking has totally failed. So I would contact you or Nalisha Ben to get more specific. I don't want to ask what did I miss or something, but thank you very much. And one my today's takeaway is when people will ask me, Hriday Bhai, what drives you? I'll say I have a spiritual power system. And they ask me, what protects you? I'll tell them I have a spiritual power system.
Yeah, spiritual power system that protects you, and you have a relationship with that power system or the powerhouse, and happens to be your parent. So that's what you say.
Thank you.
It's beautiful. Thank you very much. We enjoyed your talk, and you showed us how to look at it, everything in a very understandable way. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else have a question or comment? We have time.
Om Shanti, Karthik Bhai.
Shanti.
Om Shanti, Karthik Bhai. I had the pleasure of meeting you at Peace Village some years ago. I don't know if you remember me. Sorry.
Sure.
I wanted an example. You mentioned when you were talking, I was taking down notes, and I thought it was a very, very intuitive talk. It is an eye-opener, and you give practical examples of how to deal with it and to practice spiritual discipline. and to stay within the boundaries. I thought it was just fantastic. My question to you is this. You mentioned the vices the subtle vices is a natural part of the system. Can you please elaborate on this? And also, if you can give an example of, you said the subtle vices is hidden somewhere in our system. If you could give an example of this, I think it will give more clarity. Thank you.
Yeah. So for example, how many of you know so we have the 5 gross vices, right? We have anger, lust, ego, greed, attachment. These are the 5 major vices that's bothering us. Okay, now tell me, criticism. Is it a vice? How many of you think criticism is a vice?
It is a subtle vice.
It's a subtle vice? Okay.
That's what I think.
Under what gross vices does it come? See, all these subtle vices are the cousins and nephews and nieces of these gross vices, right? So which family does the criticism vice belong to?
Isn't it anger? More like anger coming at you?
Or ego?
Ego. So criticism is ego. Why would you criticize somebody? Because you think you are better than them.
Exactly.
Right? So the moment you criticize somebody means your ego says you are better than them. That's why you take that authority to criticize someone. And if we are critical, that means we are always thinking we are the best. And so we get that, we take that power, that abusive power of criticizing someone. Right? And that's how it works. But if you say, I'm just kidding. Right? So this is a very common word in US. I'm just kidding. But who gave you the authority to kid, right? You're just kidding. You're just kidding because you think that you are better than them. You know, so even for me to say I'm just kidding means I'm having a subtle ego. But we never think about that, right? Like, that will be eye-opener, right? The very first time I heard of this, like, oh, that's normal. That's a normal conversation. I'm just kidding. I say something, I say, I'm just kidding. Why are you kidding? It's not my place to kid about anyone because that's my ego. So that's an eye-opener, right? Like, I never thought of this as a subtle vice, but suddenly now it shows up as a subtle vice. Now I have to be very careful in using this word, just kidding. I'm not going to kid anymore, because that's a vice and that's a sinful action. That's what was taught to me. That doesn't mean I should not have fun, but I should not have fun at the cost of others.
Absolutely.
That's what is shown to me, that I have been carrying this vice for a long time, and now I should shut my mouth because I don't have the authority to do that. And these are the things that we have to, the spiritual discipline takes us to these minute, subtle things that we never thought was a vice or a sinful action. Right? And we do it all the time, and we don't even realize that we are performing sinful actions. And then we ask, what did I do? I didn't perform any sin, and I'm going through this bad karma. Yes, we are going through this bad karma because we have performed a sin. There is no way that I could have ended up in this without doing the sin. And what is the sin? I didn't even know that was a sin. I have been criticizing right and left, everyone, and that made me sinful. I didn't even realize that I was accumulating that sin.
But what if somebody's behavior is atrocious, and they, for no rhyme or reason, attack you for whatever reason? How do you deal with that?
So that's their karma, right? So now you understand the karma. So you can only protect yourself. So silence is the best way to protect yourself from that atrocity. That's the best response you can have. Not that it happens every time, but it doesn't happen every time that you are silent when something atrocious happens. But that is the best discipline you can adopt, because that power of silence will work.
or you can just walk away.
Correct. You have that choice.
Can I make a comment on
Sure.
what I'm thinking, that whenever you face a criticism, I think our spiritual power system tells us that is it ignorable, or it gives us opportunity to correct ourselves. So all criticism will be divided into part 1 and part 2. And God has given us enough wisdom to recognize that is this ignoring is the best way to do it, or if it gives us opportunity to correct ourselves, that is okay also. We should accept that.
Yeah, because the defense works only in your favor, right? When you are following the principles that are laid out by the divine.
Exactly.
The self-discipline is your protection and protecting you alone because you are doing it. It cannot protect anyone else. Just like I cannot eat for anyone else, I can only eat for myself. This idea of following spiritual discipline is also for myself. I cannot do it for anyone else. So
Exactly.
I cannot substitute. I cannot be a proxy for anyone. I have to do it myself. That's the bottom line. It's like hunger, right?
Absolutely.
So that we have to realize. So that I am not doing it for anyone else. I'm doing it for my own protection. I'm not doing it to appease others. I'm not doing it to satisfy others. I'm not doing it to make others feel impressed about my actions, right? I'm not doing it to show off. I'm not doing it to, but I am doing it only for my own protection, my own immunity, nothing else. And it's very simple and clear. It's like I eat for myself. I can't eat for anyone. I can cook for others, but I can only eat for myself, right? And so that is what I have to do every time. I have no other way and there is no other method. Nobody can protect me. I cannot protect others truly. I can only protect myself by following the spiritual discipline. That's the only power I have.
And not to hold any anger or any ill effect of that is important too, because otherwise we will hurt ourselves. If we hear something and that makes us angry, or we walk away, but then we hold the grudges against somebody else, then that is also not in your favor.
Yeah. So so within the spiritual discipline, the one thing is that anything that you do to disturb the peace will disturb the peace unless you move away from that action. So one of that is holding grudge. One of that is not forgiving. One of that. So there are so many, a list of things that you could do to spoil your own peace and happiness.
Exactly.
And if you still happen to do it even after knowing it, it's simply that you are spoiling your own
Peace of mind.
Yeah, it's like you fixed a security camera and then you are going with a hammer and right? You secured your house with everything, and then it's like you are going and destroying the security cameras with a hammer, right? So if you want to do that, go ahead, do that, spend it. But it's a waste of time. Why do everything and then go and destroy it? So
Thank you.
Thank you.
So there's one last question in the chat box. I think it came to me accidentally directly and not to the group. And then we'll close with a meditation and announcements. So the question is moving away from the person or situation an act of being a coward? Should I break the relationship if it's bothering me again and again?
So what we teach in BrahmaKumaris is loving and detached. It's a very hard thing to do, but it is the correct thing to do, loving and detached. And this is a topic by itself. So I won't go more into it. If you really want to know what loving and detachment is, you need to come into the spiritual discipline first, because it's a lifelong practice that you can do of being loving at the same time detached. Then you will not get into these trap of emotions that's bothering you from that particular individual. But this is a stage that you will have when you have practiced the spiritual discipline with utmost care. It's not going to come easy, but it is one protection that you have in your pocket to do against these kind of emotions. But we can have a workshop on loving and being loving and detached. that could be a big workshop for an hour.
Yes. And so what we'll do now is, first of all, before we close, we're going to ask Karthik Bhai to help us close with a closing meditation reflection. But before that, let me do some announcements. And of course, I think Karthik Bhai just kind of opened himself up to being invited back for a second session. So we're going to take that as he's willing to come back and to just really, do part 2 for us on loving and detached. So Karthik Bhai, look at your inbox. You might have an invitation coming to you soon.
Okay.
But before we ask that you stay on, I just wanted to do announcements and then we can close with meditation. So first of all, I wanted to acknowledge our center coordinators for the Meditation Center of Connecticut, Jay Shriben and Ravindra Bhai, if you can give us a wave. There they are. And just to let everyone know, we hold a workshop every Saturday at this time. So it's 10 a.m. Eastern time. So meaning 10 a.m. New York / Washington, D.C. time. It's open to the public and you're always invited to come back and join us. You don't need to confirm or register. You just show up, same Zoom line. So we use the same Zoom line every week. But if you'd like to be on our email list, just put your email address so you can privately chat it to me and we can add you to our list. If you'd like a copy of today's recording, we ask that you don't publicly post it anywhere or forward it, but if you would like to listen to it again, email us and we will share the recording with you. Lastly, Karthik Bhai mentioned the foundation course in Raj Yoga meditation, and just coincidentally, we actually are starting this month with some new sessions. And so let me just show you what is happening this month starting today, and then we will close with our meditation. So we are starting today, and you can still register. Today at 5 p.m. is the first session for the foundation course in Raj Yoga meditation. We also are holding one in English, and today's is in English. And then on May 6th is also, so we're going to have 2 groups starting this week. And then in Hindi, we have a group starting today at 4:30 and in Gujarati on May 4th. So you can still sign up for any of these. Just email us at danbury@us.brahmakumaris.org. I'll put it in the chat box, but it's not too late. And of course, all courses are offered free of charge. And so now what I'm going to do is hand this back to Karthik Bhai to bring us into a closing reflection / meditation. Thank you.
Om Shanti. I, the soul, has the power to protect myself, from the hazards of external chaotic influences. By maintaining the relationship and connection to the divine. This divine immunity is the basis of my everlasting peace and happiness, and the zeal and enthusiasm that I have towards life. We, in order to maintain the zeal and enthusiasm, adopt the spiritual discipline from the divine. The knowledge we get has to be used to immunize ourselves from the chaotic world. Being loving and detached from this chaos makes us powerful to discern and decide with clarity of the intellect. This immunity is everlasting as long as I have the connection and the relationship with the divine. It's possible for me to have a broad intellect, to assess things before they show up that otherwise would disturb my peace and happiness. This meditation allows me to protect myself from the different, subtler vices that try to steal my happiness and peace. I allow myself to stay in my 7 original qualities of peace, love, happiness, purity, bliss, knowledge, and power. Let me be immunized by the divine. By purifying me to maintain my consciousness as and sentient point of light, protected always from the harmful environment. Om Shanti.